Could mean that guys like Lawrence Okoli, and especially if it's your right eye, if Jake's getting hit in his right eye, that usually would mean that he's getting jabbed, because that jab in orthodox would come out from the left hand on the right eye side.
And that experience would have been somewhat of a dawn of realization upon Jake Paul that this is actually happening now. So to an extent, I'll be honest, I actually feel sorry for Jake Paul. I mean, I don't.
Jake Paul was reportedly dropped by a heavyweight sparring partner while training for his fight with Anthony Joshua. He recently showed a bruised, swollen eye, explaining that it occurred during sparring with Lawrence Okoli.
Keep it going. Way too long. There you go. Good round, Jake. Check that.
Joey Knight revealed that Jake Paul has been sparring with elite heavyweights, including Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez, and Jared Anderson. During these intense sessions, Paul showed visible injuries, highlighting the brutal nature of the work. Knight called it Paul's toughest week yet, noting that the power and skill of his sparring partners caused noticeable damage. The bruises left behind reflected the heavy toll of preparing for a fighter like Anthony Joshua, suggesting Paul is facing challenges far beyond anything he has previously experienced.
Ranked Lawrence Okoli. That is who Jake Paul has been sparring with over these past few weeks.
Trouble finding Hussein Mohammed early on.
And a lot of you guys will know this because Jake Paul showed the bruises and marks on his face and said that it was Lawrence Okoli that had done that. And faces don't necessarily tell you how a spar went. Some guy can have blood all over him, he can have a busted up nose, but he still won the rounds in sparring. But I can only imagine that this week has been a very, very humbling experience for Jake Paul. In fact, the past few weeks will have been eye-opening for Jake Paul. A past few weeks where he has sparred the likes of Lawrence Okoli, of Jared Anderson, and of Frank Sanchez as well. And being that I have seen Jake Paul go life and death with Tommy Fury, you can guarantee you that Okoli, that Anderson, and that Frank Sanchez have basically manhandled Jake Paul in there. And that experience would have been somewhat of a dawn of realization upon Jake Paul that this is actually happening now. So to an extent, I'll be honest, I actually feel sorry for Jake Paul. I mean, I don't, because then I remember the 70-odd million that he's reported to be earning at the end of this fight. But you can't deny, right, that in a world where these almost fantasy fights and whatnot are making such a shitload of cash, that Jake Paul's probably being paid in line for this fight, actually. And the reason I say he's being paid in line is because I really don't think it takes a genius to work out where I'm going with my prediction for this fight. And that is obviously, no, in fact, drum roll, please. AJ via knockout, obviously, technical knockout, if Jake gets
Jake Paul's choice to spar with elite heavyweights has sparked heavy scrutiny from analysts and fans. While he's known for facing high-profile opponents, his preparation for a fight with Anthony Joshua has exposed how steep the challenge truly is. Training footage shows Paul absorbing serious power from heavyweight partners, revealing flaws unseen in past bouts. Respected analyst Wade Plemons notes that these sessions highlight a major weakness, citing reports that Paul was even knocked out in sparring. This has led many to question whether Paul's confidence matches his actual readiness to face a former heavyweight champion.
Question is, which one of those two things is happening? And question is, how is it going down? Because what we know about Anthony Joshua is that he has a nasty lead hook, and he's going to have a reach advantage on Jake, just like Lawrence Okoli does in the gym, which is why Jake has brought him in. So that jab's going to be effective. That lead hand of AJ is going to be effective. How does Jake maneuver around that? And again, you can look at this a couple of ways. One, okay, you get hit with it in camp, so you don't get hit with it in the fight, which is why you bring these heavyweights in. It's why you bring Jared Anderson, Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez in. Or two, there's a massive flaw in what Jake's doing, that he's continually getting hit with this, and the indication that he's getting hit by Okoli means he's going to get hit the same way with Anthony Joshua. I tend to believe a little bit of both, right? You do this so that it doesn't happen, but also how much can Jake really learn and to avoid something that's coming out with the jab or with the lead hook, or just again the distance control and the range of a guy like Okolie and a guy like AJ.
Footage of Jake Paul sparring shows him repeatedly taking shots to the chin from heavyweight fighters, leaving visible marks and highlighting the physical toll of these sessions. Training against opponents like Lawrence Okolie is far more intense than anything Paul has faced before. Observers point out that the mix of size, power, and technical skill in these sparring partners is exposing weaknesses in Paul's defense and overall durability.
6'5". He isn't 250 pounds. He's not a natural heavyweight. And you could say that's an advantage to Jake. He's going to be able to move around a little bit. Again, we'll talk about his feet in a second. But it's more to me the fact that what we're not seeing is the biggest weakness of Jake's, on top of the fact that he's gotten an eye smashed up in sparring. They said Frank Sanchez made his nose look like a crescent moon. We'll get to that in a second. Lawrence Okolie is giving him a freaking shiner in sparring. So again, you could say that's great work from Jake to be able to have these high-level guys come in, but you also have to admit that he's getting hit, and he's getting hit a lot by guys that aren't Anthony Joshua in terms of their skill and ability, or at least not at the highest level that AJ has been to. So,
but we brought in world champion heavyweight sparring partners, guys who are 270 pounds, 250 pounds. You know, sparring them, you know, has been insane. I still got the remnants of
I see you taking a little shot there. I like that you're taking those shots.
Castillo speaks bluntly about Jake Paul's outlook, saying that stepping in the ring with Anthony Joshua would be brutal. He argues that even with intense sparring, Paul's chances of handling Joshua's knockout power are extremely low. Castillo adds that lasting 3 rounds would already be an accomplishment. While heavyweight training offers experience, he notes it can't fully prepare a fighter for the constant pressure, skill, and force of an elite former champion, highlighting the wide gap between influencer bouts and true world-class heavyweight. Competition.
I think it could go, honestly speaking, if Jake can last 3 rounds, in a way he's kind of won a mental victory, because I'll be real, I think everybody's expecting AJ to come there and blast them out in 1 round. But I think a moral victory would be if Jake just lands 1 stun punch on him. That'd be good enough for him. But kudos to Jake Paul for even doing this, because honestly speaking, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, one of the greatest moments that I've witnessed in boxing history, and I know Jake Paul is obviously an influencer, and I'm a boxing fan. Like, I love boxing. So this is a bit weird to say that this is quite a huge moment, but just when he came out last year and he came out of his brother and he came out a little rider, I got goosebumps, because in that moment I said to myself, how can anybody watch this and not feel like dreams can't come true? He must even surprise himself looking at that and think to himself, how on earth am I even here fighting Mike Tyson? And one more thing, even speaking of that, I give him a lot of respect for not knocking out Mike Tyson, because he could have. And so I respect him for that. So against AJ, and for AJ as well, like, AJ gets a lot of flack, but at the same time, I think AJ's what? He's like about 35, 36, 37 right now. He doesn't really have anything else to prove right now, so why not cash out with a big fight against
Simon Jordan, speaking alongside a Talks Pure host, highlighted Anthony Joshua's one-punch knockout power and how it sharply increases the danger for Jake Paul. The fight is now being viewed less as an exhibition and more as a serious risk. Analysts stress that Joshua's ability to finish bouts with a single strike is proven, built on championship experience, timing, and technique, while Paul's heavyweight sparring is meant to prepare him for these moments. Many observers note that controlled training can't replicate the intensity of facing a true heavyweight champion in competition.
Yet. And having Anthony Joshua in front of you, I really hope it doesn't go to that end, but it's a very, very dangerous fight.
You actually just said that if the fight goes ahead, do you believe then that this fight won't go ahead? Because there's many people that do.
I mean, I think it goes ahead, but I mean, I don't know what Jake Paul is thinking, to be honest, because you're talking about someone that is 2 times heavyweight champion of the world. Is someone that actually have got a one-punch knockout power. He understands range, he understands positioning, he understands how to set you up. He's a bigger man, he's a stronger man. I don't know where, for me, yes, I'm thinking the worst, but I want to be positive, and I really hope that both of them goes home safe, with plenty of money, but looking statistically and the professionalism of the sport, I don't see the fight going past 2 rounds.
Well, interestingly, when we're recording this show, it's been announced, and it'll come after, our show will come out afterwards, that Jake Paul was doing an announcement this afternoon at, I think, something like 2 o'clock our time. So who knows what that's likely to be. Interestingly, I spoke to Eddie Hearn when the fight was first announced to try and get the take of what this really was. And his belief, Eddie's belief, and whether you subscribe to Eddie's views on this, is that he genuinely believes that Jake Paul doesn't know what he's walking into, doesn't seem to have a regard for what he's walking into, is slightly deluded about it, thinks that Anthony's a bit chinny, and thinks he has a chance in this fight. Now, I don't know about you boys, but unless you've lived under a stone, you know that Anthony Joshua can punch. The only debate about Anthony Joshua is not the physicality of Anthony Joshua, is the psychology of him. There's going to be no psychological damage to Anthony Joshua when he walks in against Jake Paul. This has jeopardy written all over it, doesn't it?
I think from Jake Paul's side, I think
For Jake Paul, physically.
Yeah, I think that Jake Paul, though, is actually deluded enough to believe that if he gets inside, that he's got.
Is he?
He must be, Simon. Otherwise, the fight wouldn't be going ahead.
you?
He truly believes that he can win.